Set up and bring them right up.
Don't have parts to walk.
Your last name.
Melen.
Just like it was.
Yep.
All right, so coming up next, we're going to dive into AI. We've heard it mentioned throughout the day. I'm excited to hear what Alex has to tell us. So Alex is a co-founder, I think with your brother, right?
Yes.
Of a company called Smart Sites. This is an award-winning marketing agency, digital marketing agency, and you guys have to be diving in deeply to make that business scale, I would imagine. So thanks for being here with us. Can't wait to see you have to share. Crowd will settle in a minute. People take a file break, but dive in. And please welcome to the stage Alex Melen from Smart Sites.
Waiting a minute while people settle, or should I get started? I don't know how we're on time.
I would dive in. Get going. Yeah, you're going to lose a couple. We're late in the day. But
Okay.
the
No
people
worries.
here are ready for you.
No worries. Cool. So I have a great presentation for you guys. We're going to be going through a lot of ChatGPT and generative AI stuff, use cases. Probably about 2 hours worth of material that I'm going to try to cover in 45 minutes for you guys, just so we don't miss anything valuable. So let's get rolling. Session. So for the agenda today, we're going to talk about history of ChatGPT. That's where we're going to start. We're going to talk about the different use cases, most of them on the marketing side. Specifically, we're going to talk about SEO, social media, pay-per-click. A lot of this content is geared towards dealerships, but in general could be applied to every industry and has been applied to every industry. So I think it'll be super applicable for you guys in the room. Before I get started, raise up hands. How many people have heard of ChatGPT? Almost everyone. How many people use it? How many people use it every day? We lost everyone, I think. So I think it's super valuable, and hopefully after I go through the session today, we'll have more people using it, because I do think that it is something that's could make almost everyone's job more efficient. And I think just seeing the examples today is going to be super helpful for you guys. Before I jump in, just quickly about me. I'm co-founder of Smart Sites. I personally do a lot in the automotive space. I just wrote a book, Automotive Search Marketing, which is right over there in the back. So when the session's over, feel free to grab it when you head out. My company, Smart Sites, went too far. Company Smart Sites, we're a full-service digital agency, so we do marketing in automotive and also every other industry. We're currently at 400 full-time employees, and we double in size every 18 months. So in 18 months, we'll be at 800 and so forth. The reason that's relevant is that for us to be able to continue that kind of growth, things like ChatGPT and all of these new innovations are super, super important. So a lot of the examples I'm going to be going through today is really how we're using it internally to help create efficiencies and to help us keep growing at the pace that we've been growing over the last 12 years. So with that said, we're going to jump right in. So rise of ChatGPT. So this is the chart you guys are looking at is the time it took each one of these platforms to reach 100 million users. So I don't know if everyone realizes this in the room, but ChatGPT, well, recently Instagram launched Threads and forced some signups there that I think, I'm not going to include Threads on there because I think some of their user growth is a little bit cheating, but with that aside, it's been the fastest platform ever to reach 100 million users, right? So before that, and these are the other ones who have come close, before that Instagram got a lot of coverage, obviously got Facebook to buy them because they were able to reach 100 million users within 30 months. Right? This is all very recent, like in the last 10 years, and that was considered groundbreaking, right? TikTok, more recently, was able to reach 100 million users globally within 9 months. And again, that was considered groundbreaking. And if you think about it, platforms like Instagram, TikTok are a lot easier to reach these metrics because A, you have a lot of younger people using them, right? Especially TikTok and Instagram. B, they're very easy to just download and use, right? So it's even though these numbers are impressive, it's much easier for them to get signups in ChatGPT. For those that raise their hands that they have used it, and we got about a quarter of the room, you know that it's not, you have to sign up and there's like a waiting list and then you have to actually write prompts, right? It's not TikTok where you sign up and just scroll through the through the post. So ChatGPT was able to reach 100 million users in 2 months, which was crazy amount of growth. We have two things up here. We'll go with the top first. With that aside, the technology behind it has been in development a lot longer. So OpenAI that created ChatGPT was actually founded in 2016. Elon Musk was an early investor in it, and they've gone through a couple iterations in different models before, at the end of 2023, they actually came out with ChatGPT. So all these language models were in development for a long time. The reason it finally blew up and became big is they opened it up to the public to be able to interact with the language model and write prompts and get information back. So this is all super recent. The book, again, that I have in the back, I wrote in November of last year. And when I wrote it, ChatGPT didn't exist. That's how rapidly all of this has moved. There's also, this gets a little bit more technical, but there's ChatGPT 3.5, or GPT 3.5, which is what powers ChatGPT. They also have a newer model now, 4. So right now you could get it with a subscription. I think it's $19 to $20 a month. There's a lot of data to look at there, but ChatGPT 4 has access to a lot more information. If we look at the chart, I don't think that's the screen you're looking at, but if you look at the chart, what you're seeing in blue is the original GPT 3.5. That's what most of you guys are using, unless you're paying for the premium subscription. And that's how it's scored on all the major exams. So, for example, you have the LSAT, it got 40%, right? GPT-4, which came out, I think Q1 of this year, was able to get 90% on LSATs, right? So the model is very quickly growing and becoming more powerful. Throughout this whole presentation, I on purpose used ChatGPT 3.5, or GPT 3.5 for all my examples. For almost all use cases, even the default free model is more than sufficient for what you guys will be using it for. So yes, there's some benefits upgrading to the plus and getting GPT-4, and it'll be able to pass the bar exam for you guys. But for the typical use cases, even the default model is very powerful. All right, so throughout the next 3 sections, I'm going to go through the most obvious use cases in marketing. Again, this is somewhat dealership-centric, but again, it applies to every industry, and we're using it internally for our agency and for our clients across every single industry. So first, we're going to talk about organic search. I think that's one of the areas where ChatGPT and generative AI could make the biggest contributions. Before I dive into organic search, just to get everyone on the same page of what organic search is, right? When you make a search on Google, the first thing that comes up is the Google Maps listing. In the SEO community, it's known as Google Local Pack. And then the area below is Google Localized Organic Results. So those are both very different, and the ranking factors that go into it are very different. So just so we're all on the same page. In my book, I go through like 60 pages of actually organic ranking factors and what Google uses as signals to determine how well you rank for both of these. So this is just a quick summary of it. And the reason I even go into it, because as we go through the slides and as I show you which items influence your organic results, just so you know how it stacks up. So for the local pack, which is your maps, as you guys might have expected, your Google My Business profile is the #1 ranking signal that Google uses, and it's become more and more important. So for those that do have physical business in this room, one of the most important things you could do for your maps listing is make sure your Google My Business profile is fully filled out, has all the information in it, pictures, everything. Reviews is the second most important ranking factor. So reviews are an interesting one because you guys, and again, more applicable to those in the room that have the local business, but you guys don't typically have direct control over those, right? You can't like force your customers at gunpoint, like leave me a review right now. But they're very important, both obviously having 5 out of 5 stars, right? But also the amount of reviews, as you might have guessed it, but more so the content in the reviews. So a lot of people don't realize is Google uses the content in the reviews as a ranking factor to determine what you rank for. So for example, if you're a coffee shop and you want to rank for Colombian coffee, and if a lot of your reviews people say that Colombian coffee was amazing, you'll actually rank better for Colombian coffee on maps. And obviously applies to every industry similar. Again, you can't necessarily force people to leave specific content in the reviews, but just important to know so you could encourage customers in the correct way to leave them. After that, it's on-page and links are the most important factors. On the left side, which is actually the search results on Google, on-page and links are also the most important. The on-page there's some technical SEO that goes into it, but it's also the quantity and quality of your content on your website. And links are websites looking back to you. So that's always been the golden formula within Google since Google came out, right, and how they determine what ranks and how much traffic you'll get from Google is literally having good technical SEO. So Google could crawl your site and understands your content, but then it's having very good quantity and quality of content. So to say it another way, each piece of content on your website gives you an opportunity to come up with search results. So in the automotive space, let's say you're a dealership, if you make a page on your website comparing a Honda Accord to a Toyota Camry, someone searches Honda Accord versus Toyota Camry, that page has an opportunity to show up in results. If you didn't create that page, your homepage of your website will never come up for that search, even if you're Honda or Toyota, right? So each piece of content you create gives you an opportunity to come up with search results. And then links is getting other websites to link to you. You're not allowed to buy links, you're not allowed to trade links. It's supposed to be mostly organic, but the way businesses could get more links is that Google approves is mostly an outreach effort. So you reach out to other websites, ask them to link to you, right? The more websites link to you, the more authoritative Google sees you. So if you're creating content and you're getting more and more websites to link to you, your content will rank higher, and that's how you get more organic search traffic. Very simple. SEO has been for a long time very big mystery box, and a lot of agencies sell it as like you pay me X amount and then magical things will happen and you'll get more traffic, right? It's actually very straightforward. I'm not sure why the industry became the way it was. It's not usually as transparent as it could be, but that's really all there is to it. And then you have behavioral citations, personalization, and some other things that obviously contribute to it. But really, if you work on your content links and reviews in your Google My Business profile, you're gonna get substantially more traffic than you do otherwise. I'm not gonna go into this too much, but this has changed over time. So this is the local results, so not maps. So over time, content and links have continued to become more and more important. For those that might be in the SEO world, similar to the every year I see on like LinkedIn and every SEO is dead, I also see like link building is dead and all that. So even though that comes out every year, it's become more and more important. Important one to note here is social signals are not part of ranking on Google, so that's one customers ask us very often, like if I make an Instagram, is it going to help me rank better on Google, like things like that. It does not. So social does not contribute to Google rankings. This is the same for maps. So for maps, the Google My Business profile has become much more important over the years. And if you guys think about it, again, if you have a physical business, I'm sure you've seen it yourself with the prominence and growth of your Google business profile as compared to Yelp or everything else, right? Where 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Yelp was a go-to for a lot of finding local businesses, and Yelp goes under citations, it's ingrained here. Google has devalued it in its eyes of how it ranks content. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, this is a good checklist, and again, I have tons of this in my book, but a good checklist of what contributes to your SEO. So for anyone as a business that wants to get more organic traffic, this is it. This is the slide to take a picture of. So I'm going to pause here really quick. And again, this is the stuff we covered. So for the maps, your Google My Business profile, your reviews, on-page links, and then the organic results on-page and links are the most important. Cool. So now that we got that out of the way, for the next slides in this section, I'm going to go through actual use cases. And again, I use ChatGPT to generate these screenshots. I use the free version of ChatGPT. And I'm going to go through some use cases of how you can actually be using it to be more effective, more efficient in your business. Again, this is dealership-centric, but again, it could be used and is used for every industry. So I'm going to start at the top, use case for AI, site page ideas, right? You have a website, How do you know if you have all the correct pages that you should have on your website? And if you guys remember, every page gives you an opportunity to come up with search results, but also is important for UI, UX. So it lands on your website, you're a dealership, you don't have a trade-in page, that creates an issue if someone wants to trade in their car, right? So what kind of pages should a car dealership website have? I asked ChatGPT. ChatGPT gives me a list, not only of the pages, but actually describes what the pages should be. So a very good start to make sure you actually have these pages. For example, in ChatGPT's opinion, test drive page made the list of the top 10. And this is based on, again, ChatGPT is a generative model. It uses tons of data to generate these. So in most cases, the responses it gives are going to be better than if you go on Google and try to get this information. So these, I would, in most cases, and we'll see then, some cases you wouldn't, but in most cases this is very good data. So this is, funny enough, a lot of car dealerships I've noticed don't have test drive pages, right? So this is a good place to start. And again, every industry, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you go ask ChatGPT what kind of pages your website should have. That's like page ideas. Number 2, content ideas. So content, again, we spoke about content is super important. Every piece of content is your opportunity to rank on Google. You could go on ChatGPT and say, generate a list of blog post ideas for a car dealership. And right away, this generates instantly. For those that have not used ChatGPT, not only is it free, but all of this, you go in, you put it, and you get the response. And again, you could be a lot more creative in even asking the questions. You could say, generate me 20 pages. You could say, generate me 20 content ideas about electric vehicles, right? You could really tailor it to what you want the output to be. So an interesting one on content. So here we talked about actually the pages to write about, but we didn't talk about the actual content. So what's interesting is when I wrote my book in November, ChatGPT didn't exist. It was just coming out. I think I have a blurb about it in the back. But when all this was coming out, my interpretation of all of this is that Google would not allow the AI-generated content and would penalize for it, right? If you think about it, if Google allows this almost infinite amount of content that someone could create almost instantly, it'll spam the entire internet, right? So my interpretation of it was that Google, and Google knows, by the way, not only Google knows, there's a lot of free tools where you can put the content in, and it'll tell you if it's AI generated. So there's very easy ways, especially for Google that owns DeepMind and a lot of them, they have their own generative AI platform, to know that's AI generated content. But they came out in February, this is their official stance on it, and it's been this way since February, is that they won't penalize AI generated content. At the same time, they stress that the quality of the content will continue to be super important. People who are publishing the content need to be authoritative, the content needs to be unique, right? The same, they have the EAT, and they added another E a couple years ago, so EEAT, that how they determine what's valuable content. But they said they're not penalizing AI content. So for the time being, you could actually use ChatGPT to generate content for your website. What I would say though is it's important to QA it and maybe rewrite it a little bit. There's also, of course, risk that Google will change their mind and they're going to say, A, we're not ranking AI content at all, or B, they could highlight which content is AI generated in search results. But to date, they still stand with the stance that they will reward high quality content regardless of how it's produced. So for the time being, that makes it a lot easier for you to generate content for your website. Again, make sure to, I wouldn't just straight use whatever you generate, but it could at the very least help you in the process. So the way this works is, I went to ChatGPT and I said, write 250 words on the history of the Mercedes GLS, right? And it does a fantastic job. If you went out and hired an intern and told them, your job for today is to write me an article about the history of the Mercedes GLS, it would probably take 4 hours and come up with something worse. So if you guys read through this briefly, and again, you could tailor it. You could tell it to write me 500 words, 5,000 words, right? It's a generative model. They'll do what you tell it. If you tell it that this has to be 3 pages long, we'll make it 3 pages long. And if you read through it, as I'm speaking, feel free to skim through it. It actually is really, really good content. Mercedes GLS is a luxury SUV has become a popular choice for those seeking a comfortable and spacious vehicle. The GLS was first introduced in 2006 as Mercedes-Benz GL Class, was later renamed to the GLS in 2016. And if you continue reading through it, it's all accurate information and it reads very, very well. So very, very powerful. Obviously for SEO, I have the the stars for content that Google could at some point decide they're going to penalize it for whatever it is. But in general, using ChatGPT to generate content or get information is super, super powerful. Also, you could ask it to generate content in different styles. For those that use ChatGPT and didn't know about this, this is very, very powerful and a good way to make your content more unique, right? If you just say, write me an article about the GLS, it's going to be very similar to the other 10,000. And I've been using this example in a couple speaking sessions, so I'm sure there's a lot of GLS content out there now. It's going to be very similar, but you could ask it to write in styles of different people. You could also ask it to write it in different styles in general. So you could say, for example, act as an expert when you respond to, or when you write this content. And that's actually a very powerful one. If you ask ChatGPT to act as an expert, it actually accesses more information to write the content. So there's different ways to massage it. In this case, I wrote, write 250 words on the history of the Mercedes GLS in the style of Shakespeare. That's one of my favorite ones because it can make any content in the style of Shakespeare, right? So it goes, "Oh, fair ladies and gentlemen, listen to this tale of a carriage that journeyed through time and prevailed," right? If you read through it, it actually reads very good. It literally like Shakespeare wrote it. So any information you get from it in your prompt, you could actually ask it to respond in different ways based on what kind of content you're trying to get. You can also use it for link building. So we talked very briefly about link building. Link building is the process of getting other websites to link to you, so you're become more authoritative in the eyes of Google. Obviously, it's a little bit trickier in application here, but you could literally go and say, what are the most popular local automotive directories in New Jersey, right? ChatGPT will warn you that it's not a live model, that most of its data set is predefined, or let me put it this way, their most QA and most accurate data set is predefined and slightly old, right? It's from 2 years old or so. So it'll tell you, I don't have live information, it actually gives you the local directories, right? And then you could go to these websites and say, hey, you link to these guys that are similar to me, please link to me also, right? Very powerful to assist you with link building. You could also do a lot of advanced stuff here. Won't go through a lot of this because I think in most cases, this would be on the agency or whoever you work with to be implementing, not you guys yourself, but just know there's really, really powerful things you could do outside of just the regular stuff. So here I said, write me a Google Apps script that takes URLs in column A and lists the external links each URL has. So it literally writes you the script and tells you how to implement it, right? This will give you a list of websites and what they're being linked from. Right, super powerful way to see what links your competitors have and try to get links from those websites as well. So really, really powerful stuff you could do, especially on the coding side. ChatGPT writes code. It's literally write programming code. Obviously, there's some implications there. There was a case recently where a developer at Samsung was trying to troubleshoot a bug. They put in all the Samsung code in there. And ChatGPT quickly found the bug and fixed it for them, something that would have taken them days. But then they realized ChatGPT now has all that information. So the way the generative AI works is it's always learning, and any information you give them, they keep, right? It's part of the system now. And so ChatGPT now has the entire Samsung code base, right? Samsung went to OpenAI, they're like, hey guys, can you give us the data back? OpenAI is like, that's not how it works. Not only is it already incorporated in the model, but our AI system already has learned from it and has fixed so much other codes based on your code, right? So if you do wind up using it for code, or again, if you do wind up trying to think outside the box and having it do interesting things, let's say, you always have to keep in mind that anything you feed into it kind of stays with it forever and then it learns from it, right? So anything proprietary, I wouldn't give it, right? You don't want to, I'm sure the person who gave it the entire Samsung code repository probably got in trouble for it. Yeah, I'm sure Samsung's still trying to figure out how to undo that. So just something to keep in mind, but for programming, it is very, very powerful. Reputation management. So this is a big one that I feel like it gets underused. So for those who have Google My Business profile, again, a physical store, where we spoke about reviews are very important, right? It's very helpful to respond to reviews. Also, it's very important to respond to reviews that customer had emailed you. At the same time, it could also be negative reviews, right? So both negative reviews publicly or negative emails. ChatGPT does an amazing job responding. So in this case, I said, write a response to a user who left this review over a car dealership Google listing, and I copy pasted the review. My third time getting a car from Prestige Lexus Ramsey. All 3 times he gave the respect and trust. It's truly hard to find at a car dealership, especially these days. No pressure to buy. If you read through the ChatGPT response, it actually highlights all the benefits and highlights it in a way that makes it very, for anyone who reads it, it makes them want to come into a dealership, right? If you guys are responding manually to any of your reviews, I would switch this right away, because I think in 99 cases out of 100, it's going to write a better response than you would. It saves you so much time, right? The whole point of all of this generative AI stuff is to create efficiencies, and this is a huge one. I know clients now that have started using it to help managers respond to emails, like service managers get a lot of complaints, right? And it's a lot of work to respond to emails and respond to them in a correct way, not to piss off the customer, right? Not to overpromise something. So in this case, ChatGPT wrote, thank you so much for your kind words and for choosing Prestige Lexus Ramsey for your car buying needs. We're so glad to hear that our team provided you with the respect and trust that you deserve during all your visits. We strive to provide a no-pressure and enjoyable car buying experience for all of our customers. We're thrilled that we were able to exceed your expectations and earn your repeat business, right? It literally highlights that the person bought multiple times. It highlights all the positives of the review, and does it instantly. So super, super powerful. I would encourage everyone to use it. It does an even better job with negative reviews. And studies show that responding to a negative review in a correct way could get someone to buy a car from you or do business with you more so than even a positive review, right? For a lot of, obviously you don't want a lot of negative reviews, but for a lot of consumers, seeing how business handles a negative review is very important in their decision-making process. So very, very powerful and very big time saver. All right. Social media. So as opposed to the SEO side where there is some asterisks and Google might devalue it and whatnot, social media is perfect for using ChatGPT. For those that are writing posts on social media and you have someone in-house actually physically spending the day writing up and planning your posts, whether it's Facebook, whatever it is, I can't say this is going to replace them, but it's going to make them a lot more efficient. And I think that the big takeaway with this entire generative AI and the whole deck as I go through it is it's to create efficiencies and to be able to help people get more out of their time and to be able to produce more. So social media, I wrote to ChatGPT, write 100 words worth of Facebook ad copy for a car dealership in New York City area, include a call to action. It literally writes up this the post ready to go, right? All you need to do is put on some pictures. And it works just as well for any social media platform. For Twitter, I wrote Twitter's now X, for X. I'll keep calling it Twitter. Write 5 funny tweets about working at a car dealership, right? Not only does it write them within the character limit and within everything, it puts in the correct hashtags for each. Right? So again, for anyone doing social media, this is a big win that I wouldn't necessarily, like if you have a person doing social media, I wouldn't be like, that's it, I'm firing them, ChatGPT is going to replace them, right? I would introduce them to this to become more efficient. You could obviously create more content, do more things, because you have ChatGPT helping. TikTok, you go, what are the most popular hashtags for automotive on TikTok, right? ChatGPT will warn you they don't want real-time data, but it still answers and gives you literally the most popular hashtags and describes each one of them so you don't accidentally get it wrong and put a wrong hashtag that's not for what you think it is. Without this, how would you find the most popular hashtags for doing a post on TikTok, right? You would rely on your social media person who might know it from previous work, or they would go on Google and search for some biased information of something someone wrote, right? So super, super powerful to make you guys more efficient with social media. All right, next up, paid search. So before I go into paid search, I just wanted to point out that ChatGPT, as a generative AI model, is partnered with Microsoft, or I guess the other way around, Microsoft partners with ChatGPT. So Microsoft has incorporated into a lot of their products. For those that are Microsoft-centric, things like Skype now has ChatGPT built into it. If you use the Edge browser, you have on the right side a ChatGPT widget that's built in, and you could literally ask it to summarize a page. Like, right, you're in a news article, you could, while you're in there, say, please summarize this page, and it's very powerful. Aside from I think being powerful and very useful, it's increased the use of Microsoft's products in general, whether it's MSN or just using Edge or literally all the product suite. It's really created a lot of buzz for Microsoft and it has increased their exposure. I think it's the first time I remember seeing so many people very excited about Microsoft products since I think like Windows 95 came out. If you guys were around those times, that's when Steve Ballmer was on stage dancing. If you haven't seen that video, look it up on YouTube. It's hilarious. But that was, I remember there's a lot of fanfare, Windows 95. Since then, really, Microsoft's been kind of, right, they haven't been able to generate that kind of buzz out there. So the implications for PPC is I find a lot of people don't do Microsoft ads, like they do Google ads, or like Google ads has enough exposure, I don't need to do Microsoft ads. Now all of a sudden there's more and more people using Microsoft. Microsoft in general has users that are unique from Google. So what that means is that people who are using Edge or Internet Explorer, if they still have an old computer, are usually using that and not Google, and vice versa. Someone who's using Google is not using Internet Explorer and searching on MSN. So it's just to point out that for those who are not doing Microsoft ads, it was always a good idea, but now it has more and more reach and it's even better idea. Cool. So so that was the Microsoft piece. I'll give you the Google piece also. On top of that, Google search results are changing. I don't know. Show of hands. Who has seen this screenshot from Google? Very few. Google said that obviously with Microsoft partnering with ChatGPT and getting all the buzz and everything, Google kind of got left behind, right? Which hasn't happened in a very, very long time. It was so bad that Sergey Brin came back to Google. I don't know if you guys know, but he's been away. He's been on an island, like vacationing for many years. They brought him back in February to come up with a solution. And Google has their own generative AI, and they have BART, and they have a lot of other stuff that they're putting out. But they have a lot of pressure to change Google in a dramatic way, right? Now that Bing has all the ChatGPT stuff, and Edge now has ChatGPT stuff, they're really behind the ball, and I think it's, in theory, could be an existential risk, right? A lot of things that you would ask ChatGPT or generative AI is something you would search on Google. So now that generative AI could help you answer those questions, Google becomes almost obsolete, right? It's not going to happen, but it's the first time ever they have an existential risk like that. Anyway, this is after scrambling, this is what they presented as the future. So when someone does a search on Google, the first part that comes up is generative AI. You can sign up for the beta and actually start using it now. I don't think this is how it will look in the future. I think they just they needed to come up with like an extreme to show, so people being both users and investors aren't scared that they're going to go out of business, right? But if you look at this, what you notice is there's really no organic results, there's really no paid results, and the generative AI information that it quotes isn't sourced to anything, right? That's one of the issues with generative AI. It uses information from all over the place, but doesn't really cite it. So in general, search results are going to change. Google says it's going to look like this. I think it won't. I think it'll look a lot different, but there's going to be probably the biggest amount of change in your search experience, no matter what search engine you use, in the next 6 months, more than like the last 10 years combined. I think a year from now, search will look very different, and it's going to have to combine all this generative AI to make sure it's not replaced. So with that aside, use cases for PPC, this is very Google Ads centric, but obviously any PPC would work. What Google Ads campaigns should a car dealership run, right? If you're running your own Google Ads, very good place to start is what kind of campaign should I be running, right? And it says search ads, display ads, you should be doing remarketing, right? Local inventory ads, which Google calls VLAs, vehicle listing ads. If you're doing it yourself, you might not know that all of these are possible, right? B, even if you're working with an agency, that agency might not be doing remarketing, right? So very good, and this works for every industry, right? I said car dealership, but you could put whatever your industry is. What kind of campaign should I be running? Or you could say, what kind of campaign should I be running to drive low funnel traffic or awareness, right? So it gives you the type of campaigns and describes each one of them. PPC keyword ideas. Give me a list of 5 or 10 keywords for used Lexus SUVs, right? And again, this is all meant not to replace your PPC person, not to replace your PPC agency, but to create efficiency, right? To become more efficient. Instead of going out and trying to brainstorm keyword ideas, ChatGPT or whatever generative AI platform you use does it for you. Aggregate ideas. And with ChatGPT, it's a conversation, again, for those that use it know this, those that don't, it's an ongoing conversation, right? So in my previous question, I said, give me a list of intent-based keywords for Lexus SUVs. Here I said, literally, this is a screenshot that's down on the screen from the previous one. Organize them into adverbs, right? So ChatGPT now took all the keywords it gave me before and organized them into adverbs. This is all stuff that took a lot of time before, right? Or it needed someone who knew what they were doing. A lot of times, people doing it didn't know what they were doing. It took them a lot of time. So again, creating huge efficiencies. A/B testing, right? My headline is certified Lexus LX SUV. If you pre-owned inventory, writing 10 variants to test against, right? Before you would need the PPC analyst, or if you're doing it yourself, to brainstorm different ad copies to test. Right, Google is very good at doing A/B tests and giving you the results, and then you apply the best one. It should always be testing and optimizing. This just gives you the ability to do it a lot quicker. And actually, I think if I asked anyone in this room to give me 10 variations of that first ad copy, it would take you guys a while, right? And I could have easily asked ChatGPT for 20 just as much as I could have asked for 10, and it still gives you the variations to test. Cool, automation. So this again gets into scripts, which I think most people in this room aren't doing scripts, but just so you know what's possible, can you write me a code for a Google Ads script that grabs the call report from Google Ads for the last 90 days, given a set of Google Ad IDs. So it gives you the code, and then if you scroll down, it actually tells you how to implement it. So once you run the script within your Google Ads account, what you get from this is you'll get all the calls that came in from every ad. So you could see my service ad generated these calls, and then you could track them down to see if they became a lead or if they were effective. You could say, oh, this ad copy didn't generate any calls, while this one generated 5 calls, and these were very good calls, right? This is stuff that before it was still possible, but would take you a lot more time. Even writing a script like this would obviously, for most people in the room, would be challenging to do, where it right away gives you the script and then it tells you how to actually run it. Another good one, right here, Google Ad script that lists all the landing pages on a Google Sheet and checks the status code of them in column B, tell me how to run the script on a routine daily, and I want an email for all pages that are 4 other status code error. So what you're trying to accomplish here is a lot of times campaigns, especially when you have a lot of campaigns and a lot of things running, you might accidentally wind up running paid ads to pages that don't exist on your website, right? I find this a lot in the used car space where we really need to sell this car, set up its own ad group for this car, and then the car sells, and you forget that you even set up the campaign, and you're running traffic to a page that doesn't belong. Google, in a lot of cases, will automatically disapprove that and take it down, but A, it's not perfect, B, it's not instant, and C, depending how the error codes come on your website, it might not detect it. A lot of times I see people running ads to pages that are 4 don't exist, vehicles are sold, right? What this script does for you is that on a daily basis, it'll pull all the URLs that you're running your ads for. It'll tell you the status code for those that are failing, and then it can actually email this to you daily, right? Again, it's something you could do manually. You could also try to figure out how to write this kind of Google Ads script yourself. The ChatGPT or, again, other generative AI models would do similar, gives you this right away, again, tells you how to implement it. The steps at the bottom, it literally says, this is what you do, you don't need any programming experience, right? Just copy, paste it, and run it. All right, so that was a lot in the 40 minutes. I have a couple more quick things, and then we'll do a Q&A. All right, what was it? What was the title? Tips and tricks. So a couple of things to keep in mind as you guys use ChatGPT. We'll start on the left. And my brother actually, you can see his icon in there, he did these, and I borrowed it from him because it was better than examples I was using. So number one, on ChatGPT, say who founded Smart Sites? The Smart Sites digital marketing agency is founded by Alex Melen, Michael Melen, and Yana Melen. There's no Yana Melen. I don't have a sister that I'm aware of, right? I started with my brother, and I also have no older siblings, right? Where ChatGPT got this information, I have no idea. But you have to keep in mind that any information you get from it needs to be fact-checked. I wouldn't blindly use things, especially if it's something super important, if it's going to be publicly visible, right? The GLS example I gave you guys, I actually went through and everything was correct, but you really have to be fact-checking because a lot of the information it gets is from all over the place, and with cases like this, you could Google it, you could go on Bing, you could go on I don't know, AOL or Excite, any old search engine. There's no mention of Yana Melen anywhere in the search engine. So where it gets some of this information is obviously questionable, and you always want to be fact-checking and QAing. Number two has no recent data. So who won the NBA finals, I'll say as a language model, I don't have real-time data or ability to browse the internet. My knowledge is based on information up until September 2021. So the core model of ChatGPT, which has the most reliable data and is fact-checked and is the most accurate, only goes through September 2021. They're obviously going to update this over time, but the core model that they actually fact-check and has the most accurate information will always have to be delayed and not live. The beta version of ChatGPT, if you are able to get the beta right now, actually is able to search the internet, but that probably will do more harm than good because that makes it very easy for it to search a biased article or article of wrong information and cite that, right? So very important to know that recent data is not in there. It does a good job even without it, right? The GLS example, I went through the whole history up until the recent one, even without the data, but keeping that in mind. Number three, it gets repetitive. So like I mentioned for my GLS example, I've been using that example in like 5 presentations now, so I'm sure there's a lot of content out there on the GLS, the history of the GLS model. So with so many people using it, right, 100 million people are using it. With so many people using it, if everyone's asking for the same information, it's going to wind up getting very repetitive, and you're going to wind up having the same content. So in this article, it says, researchers discovered that ChatGPT prefers repeating 25 jokes over and over, right? When they tested it for 1,000 jokes, the same 25 jokes were used. So something to be aware of, and of course it has bias, right? Like anything else, it's not perfect, and Elon Musk and a couple others have called out some of the biases, so it's always important to QA and review all the content you get from it to make sure that it's what you're expecting. Almost done. Artificial intelligence today is like the internet boom in 1995. So these are all the AI, generative AI tools that let me take that back. These are some of the thousands of AI tools that are out there right now, all super powerful. They'll let you do really, really cool things, right? There's AI systems now that'll create graphics from text. So you say, make me, I want a picture of the sunrise, and it gives you a picture, and they say, now I want the sun brighter, and I want the sun to be over Japan, right? And it automatically renders you images. And most of these tools are free. It's all like a huge boom now, almost like the Wild West of the internet in 1995, when there was so much things coming out, and a lot of really cool things that were coming out and then going out of business, right? There's a lot of churn. There's really cool things. So this is a good list of some of the more interesting tools that are out there. Taking some random ones. Opus Clip, you give it a long video, it'll chop it up into short format viral clips with a specific length that you would need for different social medias, and it edits your video content to actually be used in social media, right? Really cool things coming from all this entire AI space. What also has appeared as this space has grown really, really quickly is things like ChatGPT position. So it's a prompt engineer is the actual definition. But if you guys go to a job site and search for prompt engineer, there's now hundreds of positions at almost every single company for prompt engineer. I think it's going to be a short-term, I don't want to say fad, right? But I don't think 5 years from now, people are paying 300 grand for prompt engineers, right? I think right now it's super important because there's really not a lot of out there, and those that are able to use AI and ChatGPT and use it very well have a huge leg up over others that don't, right? And that's the big takeaway from all of this, that it's the huge efficiencies and very huge efficiencies are created from it. So cool to see a ChatGPT prompt engineer, not even ChatGPT, it says prompt engineer pays $335,000, and there's I think the average was like around $300,000 for people that are able to use generative AI, use it well, and come in and train others to do it. So again, I wouldn't recommend to take your kids who are like in middle school and start being like, when you grow up, you're going to be a prompt engineer. But it's still crazy to see how fast the industry is moving and how much a lot of these very big companies are valuing people who are able to use ChatGPT. I think this is the last slide, but should you implement or resist? Separate from this slide, I think ChatGPT is very much like computers were in the 90s. I think it created a lot of efficiencies for people. Those that were able to use them, similar to prompt engineers of today, were more valuable at work and ultimately wound up getting better jobs, getting better positions, right? No matter what work field you're in, I think being able to use generative AI to create efficiency is going to be super important, right? It's like moving from a typewriter to a computer, right? People who did it became a lot more efficient, right? Now when you have to erase something, you don't have to white out take out the page, white it out, and rewrite, right? The computer plus backspace, and that's it. I think in general it creates a lot of efficiencies, and I think those that are able to take advantage of it are going to be more efficient, and I think they're going to be more valuable regardless of what field you're in or what you do. I think that's it. If you want to scan on the bottom right is my LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I have books in the back. Feel free to grab one that covers SEO, pay-per-click, search marketing in general. And I have business cards up here if anyone wants it. And with that, I'll open up for Q&A.
Awesome. Alex, thank you. I think you opened a lot of eyes. I tried my hand at this prompting engineering. I asked ChatGPT while you were talking, I hope you don't mind.
Sure.
I said, help me come up with some more appropriate names for Chicago-style pizza. And he came up with some good ones. Windy City Pie.
Did you really? You really just?
Yeah.
That's great. All right, keep going. That's
Windy City Pie. Chi-Town Deep Dish Delight. Cholesterol Casserole. And Dough Bowl of Despair. All right, I didn't come up with all of those. All right, enough said. So who's got questions for Alex? All right, we've got some questions.
My first question for ChatGPT is, how do I become a prompt engineer?
By learning all the prompts you went through. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. So it's becoming proficient at it. There's very little training or anything on it. There's very few experts, right? While looking through the job post, there's actually not a ChatGPT job, but a job that requires you to have ChatGPT experience. And it said that they're looking for someone with 3-year experience.
All right, well, I appreciate your answer, but I'm going to ask that to the machine when I get
Yes.
this to my real question, though, is there a way to have parameters around who your resources are when you're asking questions?
Like what
So when you're
that
prompting,
is. Yes.
can you have a criteria, can you have like a preferred list of resources that you want to pull your information from rather than just the whole world?
So you can't specify, so the data source is the entire model, so the entire generative AI model. You can't, by default, right now, it doesn't go out to the internet. So it's just their model, but you can't specify sources. I think in the future you'll be able to check a box whether you want it to go out on the internet or not. But right now, you don't. You just use their model.
Yeah, but it's neat that you can do, like the Shakespeare example, you can
Yes.
do in the style of.
Oh, that's the best.
You could even pick like a prominent author, for
Yes,
example.
literally any author, because it has that content in its system, so it knows the style of every single author, and it could emulate that as it spits out of them.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
I'm all over this. I actually have another question for you. So all those sites that you listed, or those tools that you listed, I've been looking, when I want to do something great. I'm not a visual artist, but I know there are tools that will take a stupid idea that I have and turn it into visual artistry, right? But I'm noticing more and more as I find those that they are paid tools or subscription tools. So these guys are starting to figure out how to monetize, unlike ChatGPT. Well, they have the next version, right? So what do you think? Are there free tools that are still worthwhile, or you get what you pay for now? Is this mature?
Yeah, so a lot of them are starting to monetize, but for every type of tool that is monetized, there's a free one. Because it's so much of this, the AI models are open source. Like ChatGPT, you could access via API, and I could create my own tool using it, right? So for all the paid tools, there's equivalent similar free tools for now. I think that'll change, but it's so easy to create some of these tools that I think in a lot of cases you could still find the free alternatives.
Very nice. What else for Alex?
I'll wear my compliance hat for a minute. So we actually issued a policy at our company on what you can and you cannot do using generative AI. I recommend everybody to do that.
Yes.
So anything that is proprietary, please don't put it in there. Also what you can use it for and what you can't. What's amazing to me is how many policies are changing at companies, including, I don't know if you know that, but 4 days from now, it's going to be not kosher to use generative AI to publish reviews on Google. Google changed their policy because they're realizing that they're feeding dog shit to the dog food, to make the dog food, and the dog doesn't want it anymore, right? They're mining the reviews
Yes.
to create their own language model, and if you put too much AI-generated content, then you end up with a bunch of crap.
Yes. There's a lot of ethical, legal, and policy stuff that's moving too quickly for most companies. I believe almost all, if not all, investment banks now do not allow their employees to use ChatGPT. For the same example as Samsung, they dump their source code in there, right? At the same time, there's a big movement from the internet content community. So let's say newspaper, probably anyone generating lots of content, right? Right now, ChatGPT just takes your content. You could actually put in into your website code to prevent ChatGPT from crawling. So there's a big movement for that now. A lot of stuff going on, and it's moving so rapidly that again, the Samsung employee who dumped the entire source code into ChatGPT, I think, could have prevented, but just moved too quickly for them. They didn't have the policy, they didn't have the provisions. So yes, 100% you should have policies in place, especially if you're dealing with proprietary information. You don't want to proprietary source code give to ChatGPT, but it's if you don't create the policies for employees, it's so tempting, right? You're a programmer, you have a bug in your code, you've been trying to solve for 2 days, you know they just paste in ChatGPT and they'll fix it for you like that, right? How tempting is it to do that, but then you're putting in some of the proprietary code. So 100%, I think there's so much going on that everything could change rapidly, is changing rapidly. For NADA, which is in February, they wanted me to speak about ChatGPT there. For NADA, you submit this stuff like months ago. It's 9 months before the conference. I was like, I have no idea what it's going to look like, right? In 9 months, there's no way I could put together. It could replace Google, right? Because now you don't need to search. You could have just asked ChatGPT, or it could get banned. Italy banned it. Italy as a country banned it. Italy said we're banning it. That's it. I mean, U.S. government probably won't because it'll create a lot of movement to other countries and stuff. But easily could, because there's a lot of malicious stuff you could do with it. You could go on ChatGPT, and by the way, they have safeties in place. They'll tell you that you can't do it, but they're so easy to get around. But you could go to ChatGPT and say, here's this website I want to hack. Give me a code that I can inject to hack this website. And again, you have barriers in place, but you can get around them. It'll help you hack a website, right? Crazy, and because it could do that very easily. So a lot of considerations, again, legal, policy from like every angle, and it's moving very, very rapidly.
Alex, it's very generous for you to share your wisdom with us. Thank you. And your books, make sure you grab
Grab a book in the back.
Back there. Signatures, you're signing.
I can sign.
All right, take a selfie. All right, we're in the very, very home stretch here, guys. Stick around. We've just got a couple more minutes in here. And I'd like to bring up to the stage for some of our closing pomp and circumstance here. Your